So, you want to be a 3D artist. I know. You probably have a ton of questions.
Is 3D software too expensive? Is 3D animation too difficult to learn? How can I afford a 3D art degree? Is it true that only mega smart people can use 3D software? Do you have to live in Hollywood to be successful?
Hello, all you aspiring 3D artists. My name is Michael Solomon. I've been a commercial 3D animator illustrator for over 30 years, and I'm self-taught. I'm posting a series of videos to explore how you, yes you, can use 3D software to make a living. In other words, how to get paid to have fun. All you need is passion, practice, and patience. 3D animation is a collection of techniques, software, and hardware used to create art with realistic dimensions, motion, and look. So, what is 3D animation software used for? Let's see. Conceptual illustration,
Digital prototype design and animation.
visualization,
Fashion illustration and animation.
game asset modeling,
Architectural rendering.
architectural walkthrough animation,
Medical illustration and animation.
litigation graphics,
Explainer presentation.
3D character modeling and animation,
Environment design and animation.
industrial design,
3D projection mapping.
interior design,
Video components.
storyboards,
Package design.
shoe design,
Visual effects for film.
character creation and animation,
Motion capture.
virtual prototypes,
Automotive design.
mechanical engineering. Whoa, just to name a few. This series will focus on only software that meet these three requirements. Simplicity. Software that can be learned and mastered by anyone with passion, practice, and patience. Affordability. Free software or under $600. Full-featured. Software that will enable the user to create complete projects with a single app. These are basic attributes all full-featured 3D software share. Subdivision modeling, plus other modelers, keyframe animation, various lighting models, physics simulation, environment builder, wide import-export functions, renderer, inverse kinetics, materials, textures, and shaders, modifiers. I know, it all looks pretty complicated. That's where the tutorial review part of the video comes in. To explore the features of each app, I will model and animate a simple coffee mug. Each mug will look a little different per app. Fear not, fellow artist. In spite of all the very cool things you can do in 3D space, my tutorials will be specifically aimed at beginners. The first program I will review is called Bforartist. It is a 3D animation modeling, shading, UV mapping program that fits my three criteria. Simplicity. It has a very simple interface. You can reach all the tools that it offers with very little effort because all the tools are there right in front of your face. You don't have to hunt for them under layers upon layers of menus or use a whole ton of key commands. The tools are right there, and as a matter of fact, the tools are as obvious as you want them to be because they're very configurable. Affordability. This program is as affordable as it gets. It's free. So the beautiful part about this is you get all these wonderful tools free. And the reason why you get it free is because it's open source. And that is the nature of open source, free. Full featured. Remember, one of the other criteria that I had is the programs that I review must be full featured. Bforartist fits that list magnificently. You can basically create anything with this program, and I mean anything. Character animation, architectural visualization, different types of visual effects like explosions and fire and water dynamics, and you can mimic real world physics. I mean, there's just so much you can do with this incredible app. This is Bforartist. This is version 3.4.1. And we're going to start with the splash page here. And this is actual art done by an artist for the program in Bforartist. So let's get into it. So as you can see here, all the tools are right in your face. They're all right here. And just to let you know that this program is a fork of Blender. So the developers took Blender, which is open source, and created a version of Blender that is much easier to use overall. So the program is very picturesque. It is image driven. It's also mouse driven. So you don't have to concern yourself with a ton of key commands and other types of methods to grab the tools that you need. So let's start with the mouse. So you have the mouse here. When you right click and drag, that's how you rotate the scene. Then when you press down your wheel, that's how you move the scene. Okay? That's how you move the scene up and down, right and left. All right? Then when you use the wheel, when you roll the wheel, that's how you zoom in and out. So it's very mouse centric. If you notice, I did not mention I had to use any modifier keys. I didn't have to use Alt or Shift. So I just have to use the mouse, and that speeds things up rather nicely. Now, when you use the left button, that's how you move things around in your scene. Okay, so I'm going to click on the cup, and so I can move the cup around using the gadget. So I can move the cup around. So you use your left button for that. Okay, so we're going to undo that. I messed up my placement. All right, so now we're going to go to the interface itself. So you see up here, you see the button ribbon, and you see all these buttons here where I can grab various tools, I can grab objects. You don't have to use key commands to do any of this. It's right here up in your face, and it's only as conspicuous as you want it to be. So let's move into that. Let's go to the very beginning here, and let's zoom in. All right, so I'm going to go through here, and you see here, you can actually choose what tools are visible and what aren't. Now, I tend to like, I tend to like all my tools right up here where I can see them. I don't want to think about it because I'm too busy trying to be creative and deal with a deadline. So I don't want to have to look for everything. So I like everything right up here in my face. So like for instance, if I want a cylinder, there it is. I don't have to go through 2 or 3 menus in order to get that cylinder, just to get a primitive. Or if I want an actual curve or a Bezier circle, okay, that sort of thing. So it's all here. Say if I want to deal with, if I want to create a bone structure. So here's the armature tool, and here's the text tool. And if you notice, there are some actual tooltips here, and the tooltips have what the tool is, what it does, and the Python code, which is pretty cool. I am not a coder, I don't do that, but I still think it's cool that it's there. So let's reduce this. Say if I don't want some of these things up here. some of these options, these tools. So I'm going to go here and let's see. I don't use my grease pencil a lot, so I'm going to get rid of that. If you notice, there, see, grease pencil gone. Say if I don't want to put my lights up there. I would like my lights up there. I use them a lot, but I'm going to take care of that and get rid of the lights. All right. And if you'll notice, the menu is shorter now. So I'm going to go back up here and get rid of my empties. All right. Or what some programs call null objects. So I'm going to get rid of my empties. And I'm going to get rid of my image where I can actually import images into the scene. That's just a button, all right, which is so cool, but I'm going to get rid of that, all right? But as you can see, it's getting shorter, and even though it's long, I can use my wheel to scroll through the tools, all right? So it's really convenient, and it, like I said, can be as conspicuous as you want. Let's get rid of my forces here, all right? So let me click that again. There it is. Now it's gone. All right. So here you have the main menu. So you have file, edit, which is consistent in any program in the world. So you have file, edit. Okay. So then you have your render tools here. You have your window scenes, all the different things you can do with your window, and you have Bfor help. Bfor has a, oh, and I call it Bfor for short instead of Bforartist all the time. I just call it Bfor for short. So Bfor has an extensive manual, so it's really easy to use, and they keep it up to date. Every version that comes out, they keep it up to date. Here are your primary window buttons. So I have the main window, which is the window we are in now. Okay, this is the window we're in now, so it's your main window. So I'm going to go to UV editing. And as you can see, this is where the UV editor is. Okay, so I'm going to select my cup here, or it's in editing mode right now. So I'm going to take it out of editing mode, put it in object mode. Okay, so usually there's a UV map here that you can manipulate. Okay, so now we're going to go to shading, and then here's your shading window, and shading is a node setup. So as you can see here, I have the different nodes that compose the look of my cup. So if you go to this node, say I want to increase my bump, all right? So I go to strength here, and I just slide it over, and as you can see, my bump has increased. Again, this is just the interface tour. I'm not going to get into a bunch of techniques and stuff like that yet, but it's really tempting. So let's go here to animation. So this is where you would do all your animating. It's not the only place you can do it, but this is the primary place. Different nodes. You can do geometry nodes here and texture nodes and a bunch of other cool stuff. And then here's your asset browser. All right, Bfor actually comes with an asset browser, but the difference with Bfor asset browser is it comes with a bunch of stuff in it. So you can actually see here you have ceramic and you have cloth textures, and you have some node groups here. And you have some node groups here, okay? And then you have different collections of different stuff. You have lights, all right, light setups. So you can click and drag those into your scene, okay? You can also, of course, put your own objects into the scene. Like I have my cup here that I dragged into, and I have the whole scene that I dragged into the asset browser. We're going to play with that later. That's a different tutorial. The asset browser is extremely useful, but like I said, the difference with Bfor is it ships, it downloads with all these good presets, and the presets are increasing. There would be some objects in these presets as well. I am very happy to say I'm going to be part of the development of those objects. So there's some templates here too, which is pretty cool. So that is the basic tour of that part of the interface, we're going to go back to the main window. Here we are. All right. And we're going to go here. So as you can see here, we have on this part, this is where you go through the different creative modes. You have edit mode, sculpt, vertex, weight painting. I really like weight painting. I find it very relaxing. A lot of people don't like it because it's very mechanical, and that's what I like about it. So and then you have texture paint, which is so cool, where you can paint directly onto the 3D model. And so if I go to, just for example, I go to edit mode, and as you can see, my cup, I can actually change the vertices of the cup, and I have extrusion and bevel, and all these tools, a knife tool, which is very cool. And we're going to play with these tools in future tutorials, but just to show you what all of that looks like, I'm going to go back to object mode here. And all of these are redundant, okay? So you have the view here, and you can get all of this in the main menu and in the ribbon here as well. Navigational tools, selection tools, and the add tool, okay? So all of these options are right up here, okay? Scroll through that. Look, they're all up here if you want them to be, but they're always here in this add menu option, and that is just the redundancy that I like, okay? So it's got some pretty cool stuff here to give you control so that you can create with freedom. So then you have object menu here, so you can transform your objects and do all kinds of, do the things that you need to do with your objects. Also here is where you control the pivot point of your camera. Let's move out, let's zoom out, okay. Let's go over here. These are the tools that you use to control your scene. We're going to zoom in on that. And so, okay, so these are the tools you use to control your scene. The appearance of your scene. Like for instance, say if I do not want the grid here, so I can get rid of that, all right? So I can just see the scene, okay? So this is really convenient. So you can get rid of all the construction lines, as it were. Or say if I just want to show just plain texture here, so I can just hit this one here, and this is, again, you have your tooltip. So this is your shading mode. So all you can see here when you hit the shading mode is just the prerequisite gray. Everything's gray. And so then you go back to this shading mode, and this is where it actually does a render for you in the viewport, so you can see your textures and highlights and shadows and all that good stuff before you actually render. These buttons I really like because these are the buttons where you can actually change the view of the camera just by clicking. So it's pretty cool. So as you can see your front, your back, and top and bottom, which there's nothing down there. So we're going to go back here. And then if you just want to get out of any of those modes, you can actually use your right key and just rotate out of it. So you don't really have to use these all the time. Here you have your, I mean, there's a lot here. This is just to let you know, showing you this interface right now, touring the interface is not an exhaustive tour. I'm not going to show you everything. I'm just going to give you a good taste of what's here and the ease of use. That's what I'm trying to relay here. That is one of the beauties of Bfor, is the ease of use. And Bfor has a lot of tools and aspects to it that are different than its foundational program, which is a Blender. And that's what makes Bfor a completely separate program. So we're going to go here, and you have this widget here for your viewport redundancy. Okay, I love redundancy. So you can just click each one of these, or actually click and drag this widget, and that will give you rotation of your scene just the way you would if you were to use your right button on your mouse. Here are the different tools you would use to view your scene and manipulate your scene. So you have this button here, which shows, which switches to a perspective orthopedic view. I'm sorry, not orthopedic, orthographic, orthographic view. So we're gonna get out of here. So see that? So it gives you a different point of view, which is really interesting. Now this is your camera view that shows what you will see when you render. So everything that's inside of this marquee is what you would see when you render. So you can move around in the render. You can actually change the size of this render square here, this render frame, by clicking or toggling the frame button. And then now I can use the wheel to increase or decrease the size of the render frame. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of that and then hit the camera again. And here's the hand tool and the magnification tool. I rarely use them because I use the wheel and I press the wheel to move around, so I rarely use those. So here you have your hierarchy. So this is similar to like a layers list, and it gives you control over, it shows everything that's in the scene. Everything's in the scene. You can turn things off, on, make it so that it will render or not render. And so you can do all kinds of cool stuff here. So this gives you more control or all control over everything in your scene, and they're called collections. All right. So here you have all the options to control your scene, the objects in your scene. And if you notice, Bfor uses a lot of color. And I really like that because it, again, I just have to glance at a tool and grab the tool. Even when you go to the modifiers, let's just go to the modifier. I use a couple of modifiers on my cup here. That's why you see the modifiers here in the modifier list. But if you go to the modifier list, if you can see, the modifiers are all different colors. I really like that because what it does is it enables me to just choose what I want. So say if I want to deform the model. So it enables me to choose the deformation I want quickly. And then once you get used to it, it's like, oh, there it is. You know, those colors help you find solidify or your screw modifier, which is a really cool modifier. You can create screws with that. That's just cool, man. And all the other modifiers you have here, the physics modifier, which is totally awesome. You can do cloth. There's a cloth modifier and a dynamic paint. Oh, those are cool. And the explode, which is my personal favorite, blowing things up in Bfor is fun and you don't get in trouble. So the different colors enable you to choose the modifier you want quickly. And so that's why I like all the different colors that they use. And down here you have, and there you have the timeline for animation again. Again, you have that redundancy, all right? And of course here you have the different tools that you use for modifying the objects and the scenes. And when you buy add-ons, okay, or what other programs will call plugins, when you buy add-ons, various add-ons, a lot of those add-ons, not all of them, but a lot of them based on what they do, will appear in this list. And they will appear here. And so, like, I have this add-on turned on, and this is for your grease pencil tools. So I have that turned on. Because Bfor actually ships with, downloads with a collection of add-ons, but you do not have to have them all on. You go to preferences, and let's go do that. Let's go to preferences here, and let's move this window over here, and then you have your add-ons right here. And so a lot of these add-ons aren't turned on yet. So you have your add curve is turned on, but some of these aren't turned on because it helps with the performance of the program. But if you want certain add-ons turned on, like there's an Ivy gen here, which you can use to create Ivy, which is so cool. But if you don't need it, turn it off and then turn it on when you need it. It's very nice when it comes to performance. And your preferences, you can change the size of your icons, the different colors of your interface. You can change different things about your lights, all kinds of cool stuff in preferences. We'll have to go through that later, but just to let you know, you do have that type of control. And when it comes down to it, folks, control is everything. Controlling your model is paramount. So let's talk about the renderer. So you have here, you have the renderer. You have two renderers. You have Eevee and you have Cycles. And so those are the two primary renderers. And right now you're seeing Eevee. Eevee is very fast and it renders most of the aspects of the scene. But if you want to get like photographic, okay, so I'm going to switch to my camera view, and this would be what you would see when you render. So I'm going to go to Cycles here, and I'm going to click Cycles, and Cycles takes a little longer than Eevee. It usually takes a lot longer than Eevee. As you can see, it's rendering before your eyes, but I set it up so that it renders very quickly, and there are certain settings that you can use to make Cycles a lot faster. That's what I did here. So as you can see, it fully rendered it already, and it's beautiful, okay? And so you can see all the bump I put in the texture, and this is a label that I attached to the cup. Eevee slows down your navigation a little bit, but you get to see the actual render or very close to it. So this is basically a tour of the actual interface of Bforartist. And so we are going to get into actually creating something on the next tutorial. And so, hey, why not? Let's create this cool cup. So on the next tutorial, I'll show you how I created this cup and applied the Bfor logo to the cup. And that's going to, yeah, just change back to Eevee. So that's going to show you a lot more of the guts of the program and how to actually model something, because hey, that's where it starts. So let's move on to the next tutorial.